We had a calamity that took place where I got stabbed, and we had 4 years that were quite tumultuous. But throughout that entire period, there was a North Star marriage for us. And it was my Aunt Niese and my Uncle Johnny. My Aunt Niese is 12 years my senior, so she's always been more like a big sister than my auntie. Um, but their marriage was the pinnacle of it just outshined everything around us. I mean, there were a lot of people that were married around us, but it was never a marriage that I would say, oh, I want to be like them. They were the ones, and they were also the ones that when we had our difficult times and we were facing a divorce, that really took us underneath their wings and said, hey, that's not going to happen. Because if it was a battering, if it was an unhealthy relationship, they would have been the first to be like, yeah, y'all need to go your separate ways. But they saw what we didn't see. We couldn't see each other through the stuff that we had had. And this couple was amazing, and they guided us.
So let me just say this is fun fact about them. I met them um, in December, same time, but I met them, really met and sat and talked with them. It was in January, the day Bree was born. We went over to their house and we picked up Kaylin, and it was just something about them. And I felt it when I walked in the room and I sat down, just kind of looking around, nothing spectacular, nothing major, whatever, but you could feel, I could feel it. It's like my spirit felt it. And I said, this is what we're going to have. And before we had professed love or whatever, I was like, this is what we're going to have. And it was like I was at ease, like I found what I had always said that I wanted in another couple. They didn't do anything big. They never made any grand professions or confessions, nothing. They was watching TV. But it was when I walked in the house, it was my spirit was just like, oh, it does exist. I was like, this is what we're going to have. And I didn't say that to him at the time, but I said that. And I just looked around and I was like, this is what we're going to have.
Yeah.
I just knew. For me, it was probably they looked at each other, the way they laughed, the way they touched when they talked. It always felt so genuine. Even when when she be doing too much, because Aunt Niece could talk too. I see it runs in Lovey sided family. But when she be doing too much, he'd be like, all right, Christy, and she never was like attitude or whatever. She'd be like, oh, not thinking about him, and still try to talk a little bit. But she be being quiet like Debo. He had mind control. She had mind control. When I'm talking, but when he come around, I'll be quiet. But when he leave, I'll be talking again. That's kind of how they were. It was just how he loved his wife and she loved her husband.
And there was an authenticity that
Very much so.
they lived and exuded what everybody else talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Like she said, when you walk in there, and I had that practically my entire life. This was I would say my entire, meaning that that couple.
You had that
Look, my dad had 4 wives. My mom had 3 husbands. No shade on any of them, except one of my dad's wives. And and we had so many people around us that were married. Good marriages, to a certain extent. Like, oh, no reason to say anything negative about it, even when it's like a friend. But this couple, it was like anything going on.
They were real.
They were real, and we were on the phone. That was like our bat line.
Always been a romantic. Even as a child, I had this inner spirit that was like, oh, love, love, love. I've always loved. What it was until I got older, I was like, oh, that's what that was. But they were everything that I had ever read about in a book, because I'll read, I'm a big romance book reader. I read, when I was younger, the Harlequins and all that. I was like, oh, they're in living form, so that they resonated with me just like off top.
And I will say this too, that he passed away 20 years ago. It took her a long time to remarry. But when she did, she asked me to actually perform the service. And when I met her husband, her fiance, it was like, yeah, she found like different, but another man that loved her, she loved him with all her being. I'm not saying it was better, it was different, but it was equivocally genuine, authentic, and unfortunately, we just lost her this past October to be with them in some of their final moments. And it's one of those things that we aspire to still. I mean, I feel like that's what we have, but I never want to lose it. And we did almost relinquish that at one point as it was forming, as it was developing. And I don't want to add that because I don't want people to think like, oh, you're supposed to find your one love and that's it. And I think that certain situations dictate certain outcomes. And if you're remarried or what have you, that doesn't mean that this isn't your true love. I think that these things that we're talking about, they're not unicorns. They're things that exist. It's there for the taking, but it's also not for the taking. It's there for the becoming. Anything that we truly want, we need to become. It doesn't just show up. We evolve as couples, as people, and you have to be open to that. And there's a cost to that. There's a lot of things that you have to trade and barter for those things that you want. And those two couples, specifically Niese and Johnny, I don't know what they gave up to be who they were, who they became, but I do know that through our life experiences, I know that they had to give something. And we encourage others to do the same.